Hello and welcome back to OmniFoot TV. This is your host Omar speaking. Tonight's video is going to be about Sandro Tonali making a possible move to Newcastle from AC Milan. Now, let's just get into it. Do I believe that Tonali's move to Newcastle, objectively speaking, would be very good for the league? Would it be very good for the club and good for Tonali as well? Yes, and quite possibly yes. Why do I believe that there's a possibility that it wouldn't be good for him personally? Because Tonali is a Milan fan. He's a Milanisti. He grew up bearing the culture of the club in his own heart. He grew up with his father being a part of the Curva, a part of the Ultras, a part of the grandest and greatest fans that rock up behind the club and support them wherever they go, because that's what the Ultras are. The word ultra suggests that these fans take things to extremes. They adore their club to no end, and the club takes up a huge part of their lives. That's what his father is. This boy was brought up with Milan in his backbone. He was brought up with Milan flowing through his veins. His brothers, his siblings, are Milanisti. His parents support the club, apparently. His friends as well. So basically, he grew up in a very Milan-centric environment. Now, for him to go play for Milan was in and of itself a dream come true. To win a Scudetto for Milan, now that's a whole other story. He's yet to win other silverware for the club, obviously, and I would easily assume that he dreams of lifting European silverware in Milan in front of the fans. Someday, somehow, despite the current conditions of Italian football, in the context of European football in general, and I say this bearing in mind that they've done quite well to reach all three of Europe's top club competitions finals. It's still too early to say that they could manage to maintain that level of consistency and become more threatening throughout the next couple of years and maybe even decades once again. Now, Tonali has the kind of profile, or is the kind of player profile, paradigm, if you will, that Eddie Howe adores. He's extremely tenacious on the ball and off the ball. He's very good. He's very good with decision making. He knows how to handle himself with the ball under pressure. He has great body balance, which is actually a very important aspect of playing the game on the ball, dealing with aggressive players around you. Keeps his eyes peeled and has very good spatial awareness and positional awareness. He's a good set piece taker. He provides assists, scores goals, tracks back like a crazy madman, is very good when it comes to tackling with minimal risk management involved. He is simply what the Athletic called, and I've stated this earlier, more De Rossi than Pirlo. But to say that he doesn't have a bit of Pirlo in him would be a bit of a lie. So I actually think that Tyneside could easily be lit up by an Italian presence. Now, it's quite smart of Newcastle in general to look to Italy in order to get some of their best deals done, because there are some amazing players in Serie A. Serie A, contextually speaking, has done very well to represent itself by the players that have done extremely well for their countries throughout multiple major international competitions within the last couple of years. And if you followed the Euros, the World Cup, and so on, you'd get what I'm talking about. Despite the fact that the league has struggled and has been struggling for the past couple of seasons financially, in terms of their marketing, in terms of their ability and pull to bring players back into the league the way they used to in throughout the early 2000s and the 90s, because at one point Serie A was obviously the best league in the world. The fact remains that I think Tonali going to Newcastle would be a very good move for him on a completely objective basis, to a degree. Now, here's where the idealist comes into play, where the idealist, the lover of football, comes in. I personally believe that Tonali would be much better off in Milan, because he would provide much more value to the club. As a fan, no one's going to want to improve and play better than he will. No one's going to want to represent the club better than he will. Having a fan be a player in your club and rise to the occasion, rise to levels that you wouldn't expect most players to, is an asset unlike any other. It is it is an advantage. It's not about the fact that you bring in a player and expect him to do well simply because you paid a lot of money for him. No, although that can be the case, and that is the case in multiple contexts and throughout many different leagues, many different teams, that has been the case. You rarely ever find a player who was originally a fan of the club that he signed for and then proceeds to do well, because that trumps being a good player and going to a different league and playing for a different club, to which you owe no necessary allegiance beyond the ink that you used to sign your contract. And that begs the question. It makes me wonder how many players of those there actually are. Because like I said, they are a rare breed. Tonali is a very good player. But the fact that he loves the shirt, that he loves the club he's playing for, that he has a world built around and within the club, in his community, in his immediate community, within his family, it's invaluable. Or it's too valuable. It's worth more than any kind of, any amount of money that you could put in front of me or him. But we don't live in an ideal world. Once again, some rationale has to come into play, or some pragmatism has to come into play here. On one hand, I think he knows exactly what he wants to do, what he wants to achieve, where he wants to achieve it, in what colors he wants to achieve it. But on the other, a different route would yield results that he himself probably can't really see yet. For better and for worse. Hear me out. Going to a different country, learning a different language, playing for a team that is trying to win the Premier League, winning the Premier League possibly, and going to Europe to play consistent Champions League football, which Milan won't necessarily be able to ensure if the inconsistencies within their club's hierarchy and within their dressing room continues to torment them. It could be much better for his career. Now, whether or not he manages to cope with it, that's why I mean that, for better and for worse. Coping in a different country or adapting to a different country is an underrated skill. Especially if you're going from somewhere in Europe to another where the language is different, the culture is vastly different, or anywhere in the world, not necessarily in Europe, the same continent, but I'm using Europe because it is the upper echelon of football in terms of club football. So whether or not he manages to make that move, if Newcastle can pay up, if individual terms can be met, and how he will psychologically respond to that, knowing that his family will probably be devastated and he himself will probably be sad to leave the club. That is, if he makes the decision. Once again, it is a big if. Whether that sacrifice pays off, we'll have to wait and see. But it would be an adventure worthwhile. And I will leave you with that for the time being. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. If you think my opinions on the whole ordeal, on on his loyalty to the club, on where it could possibly take him with new experiences, on whether or not he would be able to adapt to English football, on the kind of player he is, let me know in the comments section below. I welcome that kind of discourse. Please like the video if you've enjoyed the content. Subscribe to the channel if you're new or if you're a recurring viewer. Please and thank you. And I will see you next time the whistle blows. Cheers, everyone. Thank you for watching.